You're a house MC with a band there as well. Yeah.
Okay. Do you have any books, or are you working on any books, or is that a future aspiration for you?
So at the start of this interview, I was like, this year, 2019, is going to be a year of me producing projects. I'm working on projects here.
Okay.
So all of last year, I was developing a one-man show, a one-man poetic show, poetry show, spoken word theatre show. Who knows what type of show? No. Really, it's a hip-hop spoken word theatre show. That's about as tight as I can get it. Scratch that. It's a hip-hop spoken word show. It's multimedia, and it combines film, obviously poetry, music, and social commentary. It's very research-based, very factual as well. And this whole idea that I had for all of last year, it was about a show that effectively was about deconstructing overarching whiteness as it exists in contemporary British society. You know, in the age of resurgent white nationalism, in the age of your Stephen Yaxley Lennons and like Padiga and Australian white nationalism, ethno-nationalism in white ethnicities across the world. It was about addressing that. And that idea, weirdly enough, is still in the back of my mind brewing away, but it means I keep on having to update it, and I haven't been able to give it the time to really develop it and research it in the way I like.
Yeah.
And so, also a thing that's going to be going on, a lot of last year I was gigging a hell of a lot, but I thought that I wouldn't write. Turns out I was writing loads, but it was poetry that I couldn't slot into the set I was doing at that time.
Yeah.
Now I've got a larger body of more introspective, page appropriate in inverted commas, more like image based, slower paced poetry. And now I have a lot of this kind of stuff. And so I'm hopefully, fingers crossed, don't hold me to anything, but I'm gonna hopefully put out a chapbook this year. But this year I'm a lot more open, and I will be a lot more open to letting the work come out in whatever format it needs to take. Yeah. Last year I was pushing it out in a live context because I knew that I could do that in any place at any time. Yeah. I could just do it. But when it comes to, you know, putting out a body of work that's going to be somewhat crystallized in amber, it's going to be a thing that I will relinquish control over. I want to be able to do that this year, but I want to do it right this year, which means giving myself the time to do it. So ultimately, there's the idea about the one-man hip-hop spoken word show. There's an EP that I'm working on with a bunch of music songs, obviously, but music songs and poetry on the EP. There's the idea about the poetry pamphlet as well. So yeah, there's three main worlds, but they're each going to come along when the time is right, I find.
And I think my final question for you will be, what kind of words of wisdom do you have for anyone up and coming, maybe? Actually, I do have another question after this.
Okay. The penultimate question.
Yeah, but this is the penultimate question. Anyone up and coming, anyone that maybe has been doing it for a long while, but they're just not sure of if maybe they should stick in it, or just any advice coming from a more more seasoned poet that's been out there for a while.
Cool. So, okay. I'm gonna paraphrase Gabriel Akamo, aka Amo. Me and him were having a conversation one time about the performance of trauma in poetry. Speaking obviously as, like, you know, a black British guy in the world of poetry, there's a trend, for want of a better word, of performing your trauma for the applause of an audience. One of the biggest pieces of advice I can give to anybody starting writing poetry in the contemporary time, you know, in the age of where button poetry is popular, that East Coast American Chicago slam style is. So my advice would be, don't feel that you have to write about your trauma singularly and write about anything you want about. That's a very specific piece of advice to anybody who's existing within a marginalized community who comes to poetry. And then in a broader sense, my advice to all aspiring poets is always find your local open mic night, go there, sit, listen, soak in other poets around you and what other people are saying and doing. You might not like all of it, it would be weird if you did, but it will teach you an idea about your taste and your voice and what your preferences are. Immerse yourself in the culture, especially if it's like the spoken word culture. Go to nights. Second piece of advice: create your own pantheon, create your own canon, create your own, create your own list of the best poets and the best poetry ever, so that when you think about creating your own work or maybe developing your own work or voice further, it gives you a foundation which is not the same as all the foundations that have come before you. And obviously we can talk about the out of whack power dynamics that exist in the poetic literary canon, especially in the English language world. And so I think that's super important as well, to create your own canon, create your own, create your own best piece, create your own library of work. Third piece of advice is about being in your own body and feeling your own body. Poets spend a lot of time in our own heads, writing and thinking and doing all this kind of stuff. Sometimes the best way to write or to be a writer is to take time away from the page, away from the pen, away from that, and be in your body. Take care of your body, parity of body and mind. Be it mental health, be it obviously going for a run, getting them endorphins up, get a massage, go for a walk, be in nature, all that kind of stuff. I think that is as much a part of a successful professional, creative and poetic practice as the actual primary product, the work itself.
And this will be my final question: is what any up and coming poets that you've seen at maybe open mic nights or something like that? Anyone that comes to mind?
That's such a difficult question.
Sorry,
there's so many.
I know there's so many, but it's just for me, it's more of a question of for people to look out for them to listen to, check out the works of. That's all the question is really.
Okay. So, right. I'm just going to start listing them, and I'm going to keep my explanations as to why I'm listing them fairly short, so I can list a bunch of them.
Yeah.
Tremendous. Tremendous is a Birmingham / London-based MC and poet.
Yes.
She can spit on almost anything. She has a really distinctive flow where she will do hollow rhymes. She'll do madly intricate internal rhymes. And if you can keep up with what she's saying, she says some mad interesting shit. And also, I think she's bringing out a lyric book in this year 2019.
I'm looking forward to that.
And so Tremendous is one. Tanaka Fuego.
Yes.
Once again, Tanaka doesn't need me to blow smoke up his ass any more than I already do. But basically, he is a poet who mainly works in spoken word, but their work is intimate, deals with ideas of the fluidity of gender, and I think the reason why I'm mentioning Tanaka again is because they've just been everywhere across the past half of last year.
Yeah.
Very, very well travelled, and the places in which they've put their poetry, don't get me wrong, even within the world of poetry events, they've always had an attention as to where they're performing and who they're performing to.
Yeah.
I rate them. Birdspeed. Birdspeed recently won the Genesis Poetry Slam final.
Okay, cool.
At the end of last year.
I need to get her on my show.
Yeah, so Birdspeed, once again, not only is she a dancer, an illustrator, a poet, and all of those things to an incredibly high standard. She combines those in her performances with an attention to detail in a way that I've rarely seen in any contemporary poet. And it's one of the most inspiring and daunting things that I've seen in the poetry scene. So there's Birdspeed as well. Who else is coming up you should pay attention to? T-Star Nay.
I haven't heard of that person.
T-Star Nay is
the trumpeter.
Yeah. So,
teacher and trumpet,
Yeah, trumpeter as well as an MC and poet.
Yeah.
They've been doing a lot of regular performances at Flow Vortex, which is a night at the Hideaway in Streatham run by the Flow Assist. And what makes T-Star Nay so interesting is that she brings a musicality to her rhymes that make her saying it makes the content of what she's saying, which is usually not too complex or intricate, but it raises it to a level of of intuitive musicality that makes it sit in your head and makes you understand it really deeply, really quickly. She's a teacher as well.
Yes, she is.
Yeah, and I think it stems from that nature of being a teacher as well. She's bloody good at imparting information, a lot of information, really quickly in a way that you understand. I think that's really wicked. Bite-sized. T-Star Nay. Who else? Is it specifically young people out to shout out?
Just up and coming, just for 2019 to look out for.
Desiree.
I think I have heard of her, yeah.
Yeah, Desiree is once again a powerhouse black female poet who was doing a lot of stuff last year, including being a part of a couple of theatre shows. No, she had her own one-woman show, and now she's doing more shows at the Vault Festival. She's going to be around other festivals. It's just the way that she speaks her truth, not only in a powerful sense, but in that word power is very overused in relation to specifically black, specifically female poets, because we just don't hear their points of view as often. But the reason why Desiree is something I want to shout out is that, like, every time I saw her perform last year, not only is she really supportive, she goes to nights, she invests in the culture, she's a part of the scene, unquote. But I rate that her immersion in the culture comes out in how widely read she sounds when she reads. She sounds like she knows a wealth of poetry, a wealth of ways to perform. Her performance, she's got a great pacing, great use of space, great use of high energy and low energy and that kind of thing. Desiree as well, she coming through. Quick shout outs to Tyrone Lewis. Yeah. Tyrone Lewis has been performing for 10 plus years on the poetry scene, but this year is going to be the year that he finally brings out a book, and that book's going to be insane. Yeah. It's going to be called Blackish on Burning Ibex, and so shout out to Tyrone Lewis. Also shout outs to Bad Betty Press. Yeah. Bad Betty Press are an independent publisher started by Jake Wildhall and Amy Aker. Yeah. That once again they're of the older generation to me in the poetry scene. So the generation of like Deanna Roger and Inua Ellams, Dean Atta, that kind of early first generation of Roundhouse poets and bubbling young poets. 2004, 5, 6. Holly McNish, Kate Tempest, they were growing up just under them. Okay. I was growing up just under these guys. But yeah, Bad Betty Press are releasing a lot of good stuff this year. There's some of my favourite poetry collections from last year. I think that's all the people I'm going to shout out.
That's cool. That's fine. And I guess since we're coming to the end of the show now, do you have anything to shout out, like a plug? That's the word I was looking for. So
the plugs are Penting Poetry. It's going to be on the third Thursday of every month in London, in central London. Facebook, Twitter, Instagram for all the Penting stuff. YouTube channel coming soon with all the videos and clips as well. Boomerang Club, long running feature and open mic night held at the Rutland Arms in Hammersmith. That's going to be on the second Wednesday of every month. And you know, I'm so happy to be a part of that crew. So shout out Boomerang Club. Imaginary Millions, live hip hop jam, first Sunday of every month. That's going to be at the book club in Shoreditch. We've had everything from 7-piece choirs to dancers to saxophonists to